ball rolling now. So our next training, we are trying to get more younger participants, 16 and older. So each person that was at our last training is encouraged to bring someone that is 16 and older with them, so that we can get some of those younger people. We're hoping to get some people from the Jump mentor program there, perhaps, and get those to come also, so that they have a perspective of what the program is, and that if there is some unsettled and unrest going on in the community, that we would have that representation that would be able to help us out too. So the next training will be coming soon. We don't have a date yet. And what am I missing, guys?
Really good discussion, which is really good practice for the team. In the event of a crisis situation, we need to be able to dialogue well and safely because we have multiple perspectives. So I felt like we did that. And we talked about as well, Theo just brought up again the need to recruit officers from the community. And so there was dialogue about that as well, even how difficult it is to police peers. And so recruiting outside the community.
Also, okay, but I with that, I definitely want to thank Mr. Basin and our sheriff for allowing him of his busy schedule to provide training to our respective body, and I'm sure, I think we have probably 3 to 5 or more individuals need to be trained.
I think there was probably 10 that raised their hands Saturday morning. There was a lot.
Right.
Yeah, it was great.
Right.
Good to see so many active people.
Yeah. So I truly appreciate that. But then again, when I'm looking over at Chief Swinford and Hunter again, and the sheriff and Jim and Lieutenant Mason, we never thought that what was a dream actually come to reality. And with Donna and Rhonda and Karen and you and Debbie, what we have provided, but addressing the situation with, again, with our mayor of the city, chief and the deputy chief attending the situation, the shooting that was held there on Merchant Street by St. Mary's Hospital. For those individuals who wasn't aware, that was actually our first response. And I have to, again, and it was months ago, but what our law enforcement officers and the mayor actually was addressed that particular day, we learned a lot, and it also set the tone of the purpose and the meaning of having such a group for the county, because we somewhat dispel some of those negative responses, and when they really attacked the camera person, it was there. But it's still things that we face, and it's the diversity of our response team. We need more black and brown males in this particular group, and again with the signage, our apparel that we're having, that we redesigning, is only going to propel that we make sure individuals know our meaning and the purpose in those respective individuals. So again, thank you. So we just cover any questions before we just any questions? So item A and B, we just dealt with the training, and what's the next meeting for anyone who want to attend our next meeting? Saturday, what's that?
18th.
February the 18th at 9 a.m. at the
At-
Illinois Veterans Commission office, right?
Yep, on 581 William Latham Drive.
Right.
581 William Latham Drive.
And Mayor, you might want someone, one of your trustees or someone that you might want to identify to be a part of this particular group. As Donna Sample always says, that we best to be in position when it happened, and we have no idea what part of the county that this particular group have to be able to address. So just remind you, you can get with Chief Passwater regarding the training of the active shooter. Under item 5, again, discussion centered around police reform. So I'm going to call upon, in whatever order, our state's attorney, county sheriff to just give an update on the Safety Act. Then we'll have Chief Barber, Swinford, Passwater give. We pretty much know where we are, and the sheriff, the update on body cams. And sheriff said he has an update, and then we're going to have Under Sheriff Gessner and our coroner to come and talk about the Eastern Illinois Police Chief Association, and then what our coroner is doing tomorrow out at Mantino High School. So it's on you.
I will defer to my counsel, Jim Rowe.
As everybody knows, we were successful on some of our counts in the litigation. I think it's probably the best outcome we could have asked for. We were able to preserve some of the good things that are in the Safety Act while stalling the things that are not so good, the ones that really have a negative impact on public safety. That being the elimination of cash bail, pretrial release provisions, the 90-day requirement that if someone's not brought to trial, even if it's in a murder case, that they're then released. A lot of those things we were able to defeat. It's at the Supreme Court. They entered a stay, so they went along with Judge Cunnington's ruling and entered a statewide stay on implementation of those two sections of the Safety Act, pending their ruling, which we expect will probably come, I would guess, in April or May. They've set a briefing schedule before the Supreme Court. We'll argue that case either the week of March 13th or March 20th, and then we just wait for the Supreme Court to rule. So,
Mike, Mayor.
I'm sorry. So what parts are we going to see that evidence of here in the near future that did make it through?
so some of the provisions that did make it through, when someone's taken into custody, they're entitled to 3 phone calls within the first couple hours of being in custody. They're transferred to another facility, they get phone calls. I'm trying to think of what else is in effect. The body camera, the police trainings, all of that stuff is in effect. Some of the other provisions, that I'm not necessarily happy about but that are in effect. Reduced MSR, which is the equivalent of parole, reduced periods for parole. So now if you're charged with a lower level offense, even if it's a felony, there's no period of parole. So that means that upon release, there's no supervision. That can actually have a negative impact on someone because although you're not under any supervision, you also don't have resources and reentry, access to reentry resources. And then as you get up to the more violent offenses, even a Class X felony, why would you want to reduce the period that person is under some level of supervision, especially for a violent crime? They say that the recidivism rates they gauged at usually over 3 years. So all the science shows that if people are going to reoffend, it's going to be within the first 3 years of their release. Why would you want to reduce that to 2 years or to 18 months? Right? It's just it goes against the science and against data and facts.
Thank you very much.
So there's some things that are in effect already. Some have been in effect since July of last year, but the catch and release provisions, those are not in effect.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So, thank you, Jim. So let's go to, before I do that, we want to welcome Deputy Chief Adrian Provost, who's the new Deputy Chief of the Village of Bradley. Want to welcome him. So I had an opportunity last week to attend the Eastern Illinois Police Chief Association meeting. And quite interesting, also educational when it comes to training. I was sitting next to, I guess, the training director, and so I asked Chad to sort of give us an update or enlighten us on the purpose of all of the different municipalities and the training that was discussed last week. So, Chad, can you update us on that and give us the importance of that?
For those who don't know, the Eastern Illinois Chiefs Association is made up of all the police chiefs and their administrators. We meet once a month for lunch. Topics we discuss is basically what's going on in the community. The strength of this association is we all work together. It's a great networking group, an opportunity where we get a lot of compliments in this area because all of our departments work well together. And through this meeting, we talk about the hot topics in the area, how we can help each other. One of the things is training. Training is so expensive nowadays on departments. There's a fundraiser held. Who's the sponsor of that fundraiser? Yeah, the Bourbonnais Sportsman's Club every year holds a fundraiser, and they donate their funds to the Eastern Illinois Chiefs. And so we have a training budget. And what we do is we kind of help with that money. We help the departments get through, because obviously the officers can't perform training on duty because it costs us, the guys are out patrolling the streets. So if you bring them in on off hours, it costs a lot of money. So this kind of offsets that. But a lot of our training is so we all respond the same way. Active shooter training, for instance, we're doing that. Just got done doing a training in Bradley at the high school. All the departments got together and basically in an active shooter situation at the high school, so we all respond the same exact way and work the building the same way, and communications. So we're all on the same page. So we do the training association, Tri-Rivers there. They have a representative. They're working with us with all the new mandates to make sure the departments are covered. They have to basically approve our plans for training. So they are state certified, that they're meeting the certifications. So it's great to have him there because we kind of get a one-on-one with him to get classes pushed through so the officers are getting trained. But another topic we talked about, because Theodis was there, was about the KCCCRT. We got to do something about that.
It was a discussion. it was a discussion.
We got 2 C's and we got 3 C's, so we got to figure out which one's right. But anyway, we discussed that, and one of the topics that the chiefs discussed was we want to work with this program so that when the response team arrives, that there is communication with the department that's requested, so that you know what we're looking for, we know what you're doing, so there's a communication pattern. I think my former position was EMA director for the county. Becky Powell's back there right now. We asked her to be here today. I think that the chiefs would agree that the team needs to be under the EMA umbrella a little bit, maybe through our VOAD program, which Becky can explain, as a resource for all departments. But Becky would be like the liaison. So like if you're going to, Chief Basswater handled that perfectly when he had that situation. He called upon the team to be there. So it really was the first for all of us to see it in action.
Absolutely.
And that was instrumental for us to kind of learn by talking with Chief Basswater and getting the briefings. As always, there's the hot wash where you're trying to figure out what worked, what didn't work, what do we need to work on. So I think we all, because we work together, we all want to be on the same page as police administrators when you respond to our incidents. It's, I think, a good discussion going forward is to find leadership on that team. So somebody who's going to respond and be the liaison with the police, the liaison with fire, whoever it is, whoever that team leader, so we have. So whoever that team leader would be the liaison with our EMA director. So that way the communication's there, and the EMA director will forward that to the police, or, you know, there's just a liaison, because it's, if all of your team members are coming to our shift commanders for, hey, what's going on here, what's going on here, it doesn't work, as we know. So I'm not going to give the class right now. I'll talk to the team. But basically, we discussed at the chiefs meeting we need to have start kind of forming a liaison team so we know how it's going to operate when dispatched. And we'd like it to be universal. So if you're going to Manteno, if you're going to the city, you're going to the county, that we're all operating on the same page. We know how this team works. The example we use here at the county, we have a search team, community emergency response team. We've had it for years. Becky works with them. They're a great organization of volunteers, kind of similar to what you have. So we've already kind of got that template in place. We just kind of want to put that on this team too. So I think the leaders, getting Becky involved to work through EMA to kind of show how CERTS works, how that team, just the communication part, because that's going to be, I think, the key going forward, just so you guys know how the police operate and we know how your organization is going to respond and operate. Because communication is the most important.
So, Undersheriff, we're trying to promote two other initiatives tied to that, and that is we have Chief Barber, we have Swinford, we have Passwater, and I don't know if I missed anyone else, but we're also looking at having some of those members to introduce themselves, you know, like 6 a.m. shift, 2 to 10, to have them be, you know, I can, Officer Gessner, Karen,
Yeah.
you know, that's one of the things. And then with that, if we can also have, well, Becky be able to attend maybe the next meeting.
Yeah, I will check with Becky and see how it is.
I
Yeah,
want
'cause
to put none on.
this is all real.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, you know, when Robin utilized it, it's now what you do is just kind of see how we can better on the police side and both sides. So we discussed it again this morning in our admin meeting here to how we could better just get this partnership, strengthen it up, utilize it. One of the things that we use at the Eastern Chiefs during our training is tabletop exercises. One of the things they're discussing right now after the active shooter training is to talk about civil disturbance exercises, officer-involved shootings. Obviously, your group would be a part of that is being notified to try to, you know, at least here in the EOC, a representative. I mean, there's a lot to it. I think Becky can explain, even having, if we had something big here and we operated this EOC, your activation, what your role would be, because you're really going to have to find somebody to be the liaison here. So there's a lot to get up and running, but we are, all the chiefs in this area have discussed, and we definitely all want to be a partnership to strengthen it. So we're working with Becky right now to get that going.
Before Becky speaks, Mr. Chairman, I got a question to pose to you, Chad. I'm the chairman of my trustee board at my church, and Reverend Lori K. Holmes is our pastor, and she brought up a subject matter last Sunday after church. You know, all you public safety professionals probably need to consider this, is what can we do as the religious community to receive active shooter training? Because, you know, when you think in terms of these churches who do offerings and stuff, and they have not everything is in checks, but cash, and she was worried that at some point that there may be some churches that may be robbed by some of these dope fiends or just whomever. What can I share with her, because I think she was thinking about something even more macro in terms of getting the churches together and doing some active shooter training. Any response to that?
My response, there's Lieutenant Basin would be the one that, there's groups that are training on that. Stevie, we get calls on that. There are people that go around and teach that right now. I'm not saying that
Okay.
Andy's involved, but he's got the team of people that do that stuff, that are training the churches right now. I would get in touch with him. He's got the he's got the specialty in that, and his group of guys that he deals with do that training. So
Something similar that he did with the response team, or what?
yeah, it would be something similar.
I think.
Yeah,
if-
I've
Go-
put
go
on
ahead, man.
an active shooter to multiple financial institutions, schools, different places of worship. It's depending on how much detail you want to get into. It's anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. If you want medical in there, it probably pushes closer to 2 hours. But it's something that the Sheriff's Department has provided to numerous places in the past.
Yeah, she was thinking about a run-through, because like, you guys do, I don't know if it's once a year, some kind of crisis training, accidents, or some kind of crazy incident happens, and you guys do some kind of training and do that run-through with all the different entities? Yeah.
Probably the drill.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do a drill every other year, actually.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Bob, you want to give the update? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Becky.
I was just going to explain what COAD was. It's different organizations within our community that we would use if there is an emergency or a disaster. These organizations, a couple of them on there are Catholic Charities, Red Cross, United Way, the Commerce. Our hospitals are involved as well. And they would just come in and help the families, the independent people that need to get their lives back together before the disaster or the emergency. They're able to help with that stuff, whether it's housing or, my mind's going blank, I apologize. The housing, or like getting their vehicles reinstored, anything. I know we have used, we've called Paulette before on things, and you guys were a great help. You are actually on our list to reach out to start coming to these meetings. But I do think we need to have that relationship there, strengthen it like Chad said, so that way we know who's doing what. We're not reinventing the wheel. People aren't duplicating efforts, and just to help the people get back to where they need to be.
Thanks, Becky.
Yep.
Any questions, Becky? Karen?
Becky, you have a meeting coming up, if I'm correct, right, for COAD?
Yes, I believe it is March 2nd.
And Becky, I'd like to formally invite you to the next response team meeting. It is February 18th. Okay, very good. Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah.
To go, I'm sorry.
I got something
Oh,
too,
go
whenever
ahead.
you're done.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, shit.
Well, and one of the things that we did talk about this morning in our admin meeting is, one of the things that we have to be cautious about when we do this is we're talking about an issue that may be an officer-involved shooting. And one of the things that we tried to do from day one when we first started this back in 2014 or 2015 is to keep this group, the crisis response team, somewhat independent of law enforcement. So I think the concept is good to involve EMA, to involve tabletops, drills, things like that we can get better at without having an actual thing happen where we're kind of not sure. But I think we do have to keep in mind that we do have to keep it somewhat independent, because then you're going to get those accusations of, well, this group is just here to protect law enforcement, blah, blah, blah. So, like I said, I think it's good. I think what Chad brought up and what Becky talked about, I think are good things. But I think ultimately at the scene, I think it's going to be imperative that these things, when they happen, that this crisis team, response team, shows that independence of, is it the police? Is it because the issue is we don't want another Ferguson. That's how this all started. And we don't. And so the job or the task that the response team has is to attempt to keep that peace as best we can, with the hope that people look at it as still an independent group. Certainly we'll throw resources at it wherever we need them, but again, to keep it somewhat independent.
So Chad, you see where that long name came from the sheriff, Mason, Hunter, and Swinford. Yeah? All right.
Contributed the Kankakee part.
Yeah. So now we know. But I think it was a discussion this past Saturday with the new apparel. Was it just response, crisis, however we phrased it on Saturday. Thank you. Mr. Gessner. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Theodis wants me to give you an update, basically, of what my office is doing right now. We're, again, got hit very heavy with fentanyl. We scored the same over 50 overdose cases. 84% of it was with fentanyl in it. Fentanyl is a huge problem in this county, and also xylazine is coming on now as a veterinarian-type drug. We've had 5 cases already. It's not fit for human. It's almost another instant death like fentanyl is. Just a little bit of amount of fentanyl goes a long ways. We had, right now we're at 7 ODs for this year already.
In 2023?
23, with 42 at the average age. Usually it was 44. So we've had over 44 Narcan saves by the police officers in this county, which is, you add that 44, if they would have died, for instance, that'd be a large amount, almost 100 overdoses. So at 107,000, that's a lot of overdoses. So we're pushing on education now that we can get out and about. We've been to St. Anne. We've been half at Kankakee High School, meaning we talked to the juniors and freshmen and the sophomore. We're due to go in to do the juniors and the seniors. We've been to Herscher. We're due to be in Mantino tomorrow from 12:45 to 3:05, hitting the juniors and the seniors and the freshmen and the sophomores. And simply another big problem in our area right now, talking to KMEG yesterday, is the amount of pills that are in our area now. So pills are bad too. They're, in instance, you don't know what you're getting. Basically, as I talk about, there's a mixture of drugs out there between cocaine and fentanyl, and we had heroin, actually 2 cases in heroin only last year. It's all been fentanyl and cocaine. So that's the stuff we're trying to work on to talk to them about the pills. I'm working well with the state's attorney and Chris and my man is leaving for the Navy. Anyhow, we've been out there and hopefully continually to do this. It's a big factor in our office, and a big thing about fentanyl. I know we're not going to ever stop it, but we can bring it down as much as we can. It's an unbelievable amount of drugs in the area. They're doing the best they can. But again, 44 saves out there is remarkable, and I continue. We just got a little over $375,000 grant for more Narcan, so we'll be all right with that for a while. So I leave you that are doing the best of our ability.
So Bob, so while we're talking about training, I know Paulette, myself, and Kathy Meltzer, we have to do, what is it? Some training that we have to have. So is there any way possible we can get with Karen and a few of our members of the response team? I know Dwayne Dean, I think they do training for the Narcan. So can we get a few people that we can identify to be?
Yeah, if any training through Narcan, you can call me and I'll arrange it to wherever you have to.
Is that what's the time frame on that?
What's the time frame?
Yeah, for training for Narcan.
For how long it'll be?
Yeah, about an hour or so.
Less than that, 45, 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay.
But we'll connect that through, if it's law enforcement, that's handled by my office. If it's out in the public area, Kankakee County Health Department steps in too.
So when you're at the high school tomorrow, are you going to be doing a similar training that you did with Jim? You guys held at the resource center with the pastors, trying to get them educated, also in Norcan, and the amount of fentanyl that can actually cause death.
Correct. We're going to do that, but I produce a PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint shows all that. So
Wow.
you're more than welcome to come out there.
Okay. Doug, I'm sorry.
Bob, do you have any plans to speak at the Moment Schools by any chance?
Actually, we are lined up for that.
Are you?
Yeah.
Do you know when that is?
Not right offhand. There are some of the schools, Chris. Pardon me? Oh, all right. I wasn't there. I'm sorry. Moments has already been done.
You've done it already? Okay.
Well, that's old age talk. Me. Yeah.
You did BBCHS?
No,
also?
not yet. That's,
Not yet.
That's 4 classes over there at that big of a school. So, and then finish up with the juniors and the seniors at Kankakee High. We've already been there. We've already been there. Grand Park, Herscher, all of them.
Bob, can you repeat the time again tomorrow at Mantino?
12:45 to 1:45 will be the juniors and the seniors, and then 2:15 to 3:05 will be the freshmen and the sophomores.
So you'll be there?
Absolutely.
You're there also? Okay. So, okay, Doug.
Since you've done like Moments in St. Anne already, when the junior high kids go into school next fall, is this an ongoing thing? Will you eventually go back and talk to another group of incoming kids?
We like to do that every other year. We
Okay.
go in there. We
Right.
also do auto extrication too at prom time. So
Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious. I have a granddaughter about to be in high school, so.
okay, we'll be there.
Mr. Hunter?
Thanks, Mr. President. And Jim and Bob, you may recall this, at one of our projects with NAACP, Theodis had me to do this. You may recall in which State's Attorney, Gessner, Willie Hunt, Michael Sneed from KMEG, and I'm trying to remember who else was at our NAACP meeting, or if it may have been the executive committee, but you guys put on one hell of a program, and I found out a lot of stuff too, especially about fentanyl. And we'd probably like for you to come back again. You remember that?
Yep, I do.
Okay, and, that was very comprehensive and very informative. It was more than an hour that you gave the presentation, because, it was interaction of the membership that was there, and we got a lot of valuable information from you guys. So, and it was multifaceted because there are different disciplines there as well.
I would think. I think I talked to you
Yeah, we
about
talked.
that, Theodis. And Mark, Mayor, we were out at the Hopkins Park there and had a large crowd out there, and I appreciate you and the sheriff, I'm sure, too, thank you for allowing us to come out there. Appreciate it.
Something about those forums when they're held, specifically about, overdose deaths, fentanyl, heroin. There's always the law enforcement presence at that. The coroner's there, so the coroner talks about the statistics and the dangers of it, and the medical risks of it. Law enforcement talks about the consequences. But the one thing that I think is really missing, people that come to that event, they're usually not the people who are suffering from the addiction, right? And they're not there just to gather data. They usually seem to be family members of the person suffering from addiction, and I think they're probably so at their wits' end. They have a family member who may not have insurance. They feel like they've exhausted every resource. They're there looking for an answer. They're coming for someone to say, if you think you've tried everything, go here, they accept Medicaid, or try over here, they offer free services. That's a big gap. I think people come there looking for the for an answer to that question, what can I do to help my loved one? And that's not really being provided by those panels. So that, you might want to plug someone into there that can provide that bit of information.
Who has been brought back from death with Narcan or something as well, too, a testimonial. Something you may want to consider, too, is maybe even the stuff that you guys do, maybe put that on Comcast Channel 4 as well, too, and for more viewership as well, too. Or YouTube, whatever that stuff is. But that would probably help as well, too, the better audience. You're Comcast? You guys taking it and putting it on there?
We've been asked to go on that there, but I've never heard any more about it, so
Okay.
I'm more happy to.
Well, Mayor Curtis is here.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank you, Steve. No, if that's something you want to do, we could get Wade LeBeau from our IT team. They can record it, and then he's in charge of Channel 4, and they can run it on Channel 4. So we just have to arrange that with, in advance of having that set up for recording.
Okay.
okay. So we have 17 minutes, so we're going to start with Chief Passwater, Swinford, Barber, and anybody else that would have any other comments. Chief?
I agree with Chad that all should run through the county there. That's one phone call instead of us trying to call you or Steve up. That's what we did that day.
That day, yeah.
But that's really not the right route. If it ran through them, then they would know who's in charge of it. They could put a team together, and that makes it just a lot easier for all of us to do. So, other than that, Steve, we have availability to do all the training about those churches and everything.
Right.
We just moved Sergeant Klopp up there to. He's just going to be full time doing a lot of training for us and trying to get us up, make sure we're in compliance with the Training Act. And he can do churches, schools. He does it already, but he can do more. So they just got to contact me or Deputy Chief Kidwell, and we'll set it up.
Chief Swinford? Nothing? Deputy Chief Kidwell, anything?
I do agree with the sheriff. I think it has to be a separate entity as far as, I mean, we got to make sure that they trust the people they're talking to on the rope lines and stuff. If it's too integrated, I think it looks too much like it's part of the police department, and that's what we're trying to prevent. So I did agree with your comment on that.
But you know, Deputy Chief, actually, when Chief Passwater made that call to Mr. Hunter, and for those response team members who attended, it sort of really worked out well. And as Chad indicated, it was our first rodeo, and it gave us some things that we figured that we can and we cannot do. But I think we're on the right track, personally, because we sort of touch base with all the various resources that we have in this room and also in the county. And as Al knows, I mean, it's when it's going to happen that we'll be ready to address any response or any civil unrest that we might have.
As you know, Theodis, they got in your guys' face, and
Yeah.
they got in the media's face, and if you don't vet who's in there, I mean, it could make the situation worse. So I think that's something important for the group to realize.
Well, again, let me see. Those people who was at Saturday's meeting, I made a comment, and the comment was that I don't know if I could have handled what our Chief Passwater and other members of our municipality, of our police department, could have withstood that particular day. So, again, I applaud them, and it's not every day you get the mayor of the city out, passing water out, and also involved in a situation that could really get out of hand at any moment. So again, I learned that, but then it also built that bridge between what we thought the response team can do and law enforcement. And so that's the thing that I'm really grateful for, that, and as the sheriff, we've been dealing with this since 2014, 2015, talking about it, and it's here, and we still have a lot of work to do, so.
On the hottest day of the year in June, and I don't know how hot it was, 95 or whatever it was, we were talking about the 3 homicides over on Merchant Street behind St. Mary's, and I can't remember if it was Passwater or Mayor Curtis or whoever it called, because I was at the courthouse giving a little speech on something, and I think Kidwill or somebody said, hey, we need you over here, we got 3 homicides, and it kind of freaked me out when I heard that and ran over there, but it really worked out well, though. But, you know, it could have really been rough when you had this one woman screaming and hollering and stuff, and this little twerp trying to do things to excite the crowd there. Could have been really worse than it was in terms of, you know, crashing on with the cameras and so forth. And, you know, and was her name Mrs. Martinez stuck the microphone in my face when we went over there. It was, you know, quite a ordeal, but I think it worked out well. It was like test by fire in our first rodeo.
Yeah. Chief Passwater, are we straight now, pretty much with our body cams and everything out for?
Oh yeah, we're up, and everybody has them. We're set up and we're going, so it's working fine. And
Storage, any problems with that?
no, we're good on that, and hopefully, I mean, the state starts paying for it, and for the storage, that'd be great. It'd save us about $100,000. But no, they're working good, and we've had a couple citizen complaints that have been cleared up just by watching the body camera. So,
Chief, we good? Chief Barber, we good with, I know you guys was the first pretty much to initiate that.
Yeah, I think Bourbonnais was the first, but we've
Yeah,
been on it since
okay.
probably middle of 21. And we've had good feedback from citizens and the police side, so I think it's a great thing so far.
You know, I mentioned earlier that I welcome Deputy Chief Provost, but I don't know, Adrian, if you remember, we're on Schuyler and one of the east-west streets where a young man was called, and you and maybe 1 or 2 other officers responded. I don't know if you remember, and you knew the young man's grandmother. Do you recall that going? But the reason I brought that up is,
I have the same problem as Bob. I can't remember stuff.
man, you know what? I don't know about you guys, really. You suppose
It's because you guys don't have any hair.
That's right. Same barber, same memory.
But the reason I brought that up, it's still, as I look at this room, and I tell our state's attorney all the time, it's about relationships, and for you to, it was by the paint company that's on the west side of the street, and the young man was ascertained on the east side of the street, and I forgot exactly, but as he was going, you went to his grandmother's home. The mother wasn't there, but the grandmother was there. And it revolves around the relationship that you had with that particular family. And I'm telling people in this room and whoever will be watching on YouTube, this, you know, some people might view Kankakee County as a little different, but as the vice president of 42 branches across this state and the president of this county, we have something that most individuals, Peoria or Rockford, and some that don't have, and it's still about relationship. You're not going to get your largest municipality mayor to attend such meeting. You might not have your state's attorney. You might not have your sheriff, the coroner, and I'm saying it's and the various police chiefs. It's about relationships, and when only a phone call makes the results of solving a problem based on relationship and understanding. Now, are we all going to always agree? No. But you have that relationship. I mean, pick up the phone. I can count the number of times I've called Lieutenant Mason about the most simplest thing, or you can email your sheriff, then you text back, and you can be able to ascertain information that other individuals in the county might not be able to. And so this is a unique group. And again, the sheriff mentioned it, Chief Swinford, Hunter was on the committee along with Lieutenant Mason. They carved out the major charter, the purpose, goals, and objectives of this committee. We'll pretty much handle the baton, or we've given them the baton to move forward, because everybody, and the sheriff just said it, we do not want a Ferguson here. And so we can be able to address a lot of our problems based on a text or a phone call, or just be able to address some of the issues that we have. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. And Chief Barber, you have anything? No? Oh, Sheriff does.
So, hopefully I won't keep you here past our 1 o'clock time, but I've got a couple things. Number one, when we talk about body cameras, one of the things since 3653, I believe that all the larger municipalities in our county have body cameras, with the exception of a couple of smaller communities that are working on it. They have a little bit longer. It's not mandated for them yet, just like it's not mandated by the largest organization in the state of Illinois, the Illinois State Police. Don't have to have body cameras till January 1st of 2025. You tell me. I don't know. It's nuts. Nonetheless, I think they've worked out very well for everybody. One of the additional things that we did, because we're a little bit unique to the municipalities, is we also have a jail. And most of you know that we have had in the past, we've had body cameras on a small number of individuals who are in our jails, mainly the rovers. And for those of you that don't know what those are individuals who aren't assigned to a specific housing unit. They are what they're called, rovers. They rove around the building. If something happens in one housing unit, that rover is there to respond. Well, a lot of times everything's happened by the time the rover gets there. So one of the things that we are doing that we're actually in the process of doing right now, we're not required to, but probably within the next month, we will have officers in our jail wearing body cameras. And quite frankly, I think teachers should wear body cameras. I think a lot of people should wear body cameras to see how people act when they are in a conversation. And I know that's not very popular, but it's amazing how different people act when they know they're on camera. So that's one thing, and that was thanks to Senator Joyce, who got us the money for the cameras, and we will figure out how to pay for the storage at some point for the county board member that's in here. I'm sure he will help us in that endeavor. Right. Secondly, and I know Rhonda's in here, and for those of you that don't know, there is going to be, and Chief Swinford are very involved with this, there is going to be a referendum on the ballot come April regarding mental health. And we all know the issues regarding mental health and the individuals in our community. And I know our law enforcement people in here can name all those in need of mental health treatment right off the top of their head. However, I know there's more people out there that need it. One of the things that the state of Illinois has happened in the state of Illinois over a number of years, this isn't blaming any current administration, this is blaming the system itself. All the funding has been taken away from all of these facilities who used to operate mental health facilities where people could be helped. And what that has done is it has turned our jail into a quasi mental health facility. Local law enforcement, our correctional officers do a great job in dealing with those individuals. However, one of the things that you should know that's going on in addition to the referendum that we hope is supported by this organization as well as others. And this is strictly a public endeavor. This is not the county doing this. This is not government asking for this. These are professionals, members of our community who know the need of mental health in our community. One of the things that happened that I don't think a lot of people are aware of is in the lame duck session, Senate Bill 240 was passed by the legislature and already signed by the governor. To give you a little history on where that bill came from, during COVID and even beyond COVID, when somebody who is in custody is found unfit, they are sent to a mental health facility, whether that's in Elgin, whether that's in Chester, Illinois, whether that's in McFarland. And DHS, the Department of Human Services, by law had 20 days to get that individual from the jail, where a lot of them didn't really belong, to one of these mental health facilities. Well, because we've seemed to use COVID as a blanket excuse for everything, and it never seems to fix itself, mental health, the Department of Human Services was not taking these individuals in 20 days. And I know you'll find this shocking, but the sheriff of Sangamon County, Springfield, Illinois, sued the governor. It seems like anything we want to get done, we have to file a lawsuit to at least have common sense prevail. And the sheriff of Sangamon County actually won. And the judge said that these individuals need to get to mental health within 20 days. As sheriffs, we started working with the Department of Human Services, DHS, and actually have had a really good working relationship going. And then Senate Bill 240 was filed. Senate Bill 240 changes that number from 20 days to 60 days. Not only that, one of the biggest problems that DHS has is staffing, much like everybody else. That staffing, so if after 60 days, if DHS determines they still don't have the staffing to accept an inmate who needs mental health treatment, that time limit can be extended 30 days. And it can get continued 30 days into perpetuity. Not yet, but this was done in the lame duck session, so it hasn't really. So the bottom line is, the same people who, for the last 2 years, because of the Safety Act, the legislature and the governor were trying to keep out of jail, the people who don't need to be in jail, who need mental health treatment, are now being kept in jail longer than they should. It makes absolutely no sense, but that's what we're dealing with. So we are continuing to work with DHS. We are fortunate in Kankakee that our jail administrator has a great working relationship with the doctor who does our mental health evaluations to determine their level of fitness. We have not had an issue in Kankakee in getting our individuals into treatment so far. Now that it's extended 60 days, I look for that to change a little bit. But it's something that I don't think was really made, people weren't made aware of it, weren't made aware of the change. From our standpoint, from a law enforcement standpoint, you know, everybody thinks that all the sheriffs want to do is keep people in jail and let them rot. And we do know that there are people who don't belong in jail. And these people who need mental health treatment, who they don't get adequate mental health treatment in jails. They get some, but it's not enough. And so it's important that, and I'm sure you'll hear more about this in the coming days and months leading up to the to Election Day, where there is going to be a referendum for mental health funds to be generated. And I think it's important for this organization as well as others in our community to get behind that and support it, just to be able to get these individuals resources, because that is what they need and that is what is lacking across the state of Illinois. So I can answer any questions or whatever, but that's what's going on with Senate Bill 240.
So, Sheriff, is there any community impact from the 20 days to the 90 days that we'll face here locally?
Community impact for,
Meaning having individuals in Jerome County longer than anticipated.
so right now, yeah, we're seeing that trend move away from that 20 days into a little longer because now it's 60. So there is no immediate rush from DHS to take these individuals because what that legislation did basically is circumvent the lawsuit that they lost. I mean, that's really what it did. They lost the lawsuit, they filed legislation, they have a supermajority in both houses, and so they just changed the law to avoid following what the judge said. And what actually, in my opinion, really needs to happen is these individuals need to get into these mental health facilities in a much more timely manner to get that help that they need. So
Paulette and I can convey tomorrow night we have a statewide meeting, so I can have individuals that start making acquaint themselves with 240, and I think Steve and myself, we're all DHS, Rosemary.
Right.
So, I mean.
Well, I believe, Natalie, I think Senator Joyce and Representative Haas both voted against it.
Yeah.
So our local legislators are working with us to do the right things. Unfortunately, the state of Illinois is not. So,
Any question of the sheriff?
microphone.
What type of accommodations do we have in the jail for these people that are going through the transition for waiting? We had like a mental health ward or something like that. Do you guys have something like that?
So we don't have necessarily a ward, technically. What we do have, though, is we have mental health technicians from Helen Wheeler Center. We have Dr. Simone, who is a psychologist or psychiatrist, or I'm not sure exactly, but he's a mental health person. Yeah, so, I mean, we do have some things that they can start here, but again, the resources just aren't, we need not each jail, because there's some jails that are very small, but it's the smaller jails that are really struggling, because a lot of the smaller jails that are in southern Illinois, they don't have resources, period. They don't have a Helen Wheeler Center that we can lean on. They don't have a psychiatrist that can prescribe medication. And that's pretty much true everywhere, though. Medical doctors aren't comfortable prescribing psychotropic medications. Thank you. So that becomes problematic, too. And then the other issue is, and Jim mentioned this about parole and when they get out, do they have the resources to follow up if they're mental health patients or in need of mental health treatment? Do they have the resources to follow up in getting their medication? That's a big problem once they get released from prison, once they get released from here. So, and when they leave here, go to mental health and come back, we know while he's in custody that he's getting his mental health medication. But once he leaves, once he gets released back out in our community, does he have the ability to get those resources that he needs? Because the majority of problems a lot of the problems with mental health people and people in need of mental health treatment are because they aren't taking their medication. So,
I know we're at 65 minutes, but one subject matter we didn't discuss, and if we could briefly have the various public safety personnel give a status report on employment activities. Because the other day I was trying to call Chad, and he was involved in interviews and stuff, so that made me just think about that.
So I can talk from the sheriff's side. We accepted applications. I think I might have shared, if I didn't share with this, I think I shared with the county board and some of the other chiefs can probably chime in on this as well. We had, what normally occurs is we have 40 to 50 to 60 applicants for when we test for police. We had 17 applicants, 4 or 5 of which were laterals, and we had 6 people show up for the test. During that process, we had 5 people show up for the interviews. 1 individual on that who was on our would have been on our list got hired by the state police, which good for her. But so I have a list of 5 individuals that are on our list right now.
Chief Password.
So we have 4 at the academy right now that we hired before the end of the year last year. We are looking to hire probably 2 or 3 more for the next academy or lateral entry in April or May. So we tested last fall. The majority of our candidates last fall took the written test, which is the first time this has happened, but we're minorities. So the majority of the candidates were minorities taking the test. And so that list is good for 2 years, and we'll probably easily go through it.
That's good. Chief Swinford? Oh, go ahead, Mayor.
Password, can you confirm, has it been 14 hires since May of 21 for the city? Is that correct, sworn? Probably right. So I think we've hired 14 new officers in the last 18 months. And I believe the last statistic I looked at, we have budgeted for 67 officers. 67 officers. We're not there yet, but 24 have experience between 1 and 4 years. So we're a fairly young force when you think about it. So we've got a lot of senior officers and we have a lot of young officers. So
Chief Swinford?
This expires April 1st, so we'll be starting our testing process here shortly. We've got 1 right out of the academy, and we'll have at least 1 or 2 openings this year.
Okay. Chief Barber?
We are currently in our testing process, and like the sheriff said, I think we had 30 originally took apps out, 17 said they would test. I think we're down to 13 already, and it's just tough to hire people, and the ones that are on our list will probably, a couple of them already accepted jobs other places, so. It used to be you could hire guys and train them before they go to the academy, but with the new rules now, they got to be certified before they hit the street. So the academy dates are 2 or 3 a year, so if you either hire them right at the academy date, and by then you lose most of them because they go to different departments, so.
Mr. Hunter, you brought up, I'm glad you brought that up, and Sheriff and our state's attorney, I think it might have been in our June or July meeting, and, you know, we had the subject about growing our own. And so that topic came up Saturday, where we're going to be trying to do some things in the respective school district, 5th, 6th grade, to try to start acquainting the individual more with law enforcement. So, thank you.
And, well, we actually had 3 people leave. 1 moved to Colorado, and then 2 resigned, took other jobs, and we have hired 3 laterals. The advantage to hiring laterals is that you don't have to send them through the 14-week academy. That is now 16 weeks. They've increased the academy 2 weeks. They've increased the correctional officer academy from 5 weeks to 8 weeks. So that's an additional time that they won't be with your department. So laterals, I know every agency looks at laterals. We all try not to take each other's. It's a courtesy thing. But and I can say that all 3 of our laterals came from places outside of the county. So
you wasn't sure picking the chief over there.
No. We've asked him to lateral over a couple times, but he won't do it. So,
Under Sheriff.
Piggyback off of the sheriff real quick to let everybody know in this room that we need some help here at the sheriff's office when it comes to recruiting our correctional officers. Again, it's 18 years of age can come into the correctional. We talked to you, Theotis, try to reach out through all the organizations that you're involved in. We're trying to get recruits. We're really down. They just renegotiated their contract. I can tell you, I was part of that negotiation team, and they have a really good contract. and thanks to the county board member here and his team, they were that was approved. They got the money they deserve, and but we're short. So if you know anybody out there that's looking for a really good job, it's not like you see on TV. There's not like fights all day long and just like in cell blocks. It's not even close to what people see on TV. It's a very good job, just a great stepping stone for those who want to be police officers also. When you're 18, 19, 20 years old and you're sitting there and you're making $60, $70, $80,000, it's a good stepping stone. But if you guys could help us, we would appreciate that. We're always on Facebook, but please send them in. We appreciate all the help we can get because we're down right around 10 to 15 right now, so thanks.
Okay. Thank you again for taking time out of our busy schedule. It is 1:12. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Moved by Mr. Maiden, second by Debbie Case. All in favor, aye? Aye. Thank you. Have a good evening.